Hey everyone, just wanted to give an update and kind of take my mask off as an artist and be a little open and honest about the processes that I've been going through. As some of you are aware that the past year has been very busy for me and had some extremely difficult times the past couple of years, taking care of my parents through the pandemic. And a year ago, my mom had passed. Now, after that, I got COVID and was down for a while, and off of pretty much the sick bed of COVID, I was brought out to Poland to be a part of Abracadabra trip. After getting back from that, it was consolidating and getting everything ready for going down to Florida. There's been so many challenges along the way. This whole past year has been amazing and traumatizing, but thanks to people like Mikey G and the amazing support system that I've had all this time, I've finally figured out what my whole path is. And I should start from the beginning. That I never quite fit in. I had never understood a lot of things, and that words were always difficult for me because the way that I think is not words. I have to translate my thoughts into words, and words are clunky and amazing, but it's something I've always struggled with, finding the right words. Back in like 91 or so, I started to do social experimentation to try to understand what human consciousness is and why that the way I think is so different, that I would always be very uncomfortable in fluorescent lights and would get overwhelmed and have to do things in a certain way that just didn't make sense to other people, and always felt more comfortable by myself because I just kept to myself and just didn't get everything. I had absolutely no social skills whatsoever in school. But then, because of experiences that I've had, I started to do social experiments just to see how social consciousness works. And I started to do festivals because it was a place where people who are regular people unmask, that their social constructed roles of their jobs and their careers can fade away and they can become themselves, you know. For example, somebody who's a lawyer or a quantum physicist that spends their life in a suit and a lab coat can go to a burn, for example, and become a fairy in a tutu and allow a side that the social constructed world won't allow. So even though that I am weird and different, the festival scene kind of accepted me, and I could see people the way that they were. So I started to do, you know, social experiments to see if shifting human consciousness is possible. And to give an example, I could give you a story within a story. I was at Beneficial Farm Blast at Ricky Farm, and I paint people's clothing while they wear it. And there was these group of 3 kids that were, it was one kid's 17th birthday party, and they were pretty obviously, you know, tripping on stuff. And when I'm painting people's clothing, I have a captive audience for my stories. So I started, you know, because I was liking their interactions and the way they were with each other. So I started talking to them about social consciousness and how it is easy to shift and cause a difference in social behavior. And they're like, well, give us an example. So I had said that I had once went to a Girls Gone Wild party with a team of 2 girls, and their job was to basically be out in the smoke area. And as on cue, this one kid threw his cigarette down and proceeded to step on it. And I reached down and picked it up and said their job would be, I held it up in the air, stuck it in my back pocket, crossed my arms, and started to count. I got to 9 when I saw the eureka moment, the epiphany wash over these kids. And I said to them, within the first hour, other people started to emulate. And in a very short time, this nasty, dirty, frickin' smoke area behind some bar in New York City all of a sudden became clean. And by the end of the night, the most drunk douchebag asshole would be subconsciously putting his cigarette in the receptacle because it suddenly became socially unacceptable to throw your cigarette on the ground. And all this was done without telling anybody that they were wrong. Because the moment that you say you're wrong, the defense system of our being go up and it goes into defense mode. So, being that these kids were at a really good point in time, and even with a psychological aspect of that they're around good people, they're hearing a good story, and they're having an experience that they've never had before, which is getting your clothing painted while you're wearing it, that these little things will stick. And I'm sure all these years later that these kids most likely would never throw their cigarette on the ground ever again. But not only that, go out of their way to prevent others from doing the same. So my buddy Mikey G had started navigating me down the path of understanding that I could possibly have autism. And during this past year, I've had to realize that I most likely do. And that actually really helped out quite a bit because I didn't feel alone anymore, and I didn't feel that that there's something wrong with me. The only thing that has been wrong is being forced to navigate a neurotypical world, think in words when I really don't want to, and have difficulty with, and being forced to do the things that I'm weak at, that an average 10-year-old would find easy, is something I struggle with. And that I have been masking and stimming and a lot of the things that they say come with autism. Like, I would mask my autistic behaviors behind alcohol, because alcohol had a benefit for me to take a level 4 experiential intensity that is for what everybody else is. All of a sudden, for me, it's up to a level 14, and things are super saturated, very loud, and become overwhelming. And that even a little bit of alcohol would bring me from a level 14 down to an 8. And also a little bit of alcohol would release a little bit of the hesitancy of speaking, because I'm always afraid to get to a point and not be able to find the next word that I need to say to put into a sentence. So I've always gone through these patterns of being super quiet and not speaking at all, to having diarrhea of the mouth and not being able to shut up. But one of the biggest issues that I realize that I have is attention request overload. When more than one person tries to reach out to me at the same time, I get overwhelmed. And that people expect you to be able to respond to something immediately, and I am completely unable to at times, and I have to process, and my thought processes are very much ADHD, that I get scattered and have a hard time being on task when it comes to tasks that involve being in word mode. Whereas the opposite is in effect for when I'm in wordless mode. I completely lose comprehension of time. I very much slack on self-care because I have not been able to get myself into the healthy, organized routine that my brain has been desiring and needing for as long as I've been around. People think that I'm messy and disorganized, and they don't understand that this need inside me to become organized. And my method for doing what I'm doing the past couple of weeks has been rough. Let me give you a little tour around and let you guys, oh, I can't switch it around. Well, let me switch the camera view. But I got all my mom's decorations, and I'm finally going through my parents' estate and seeing all of our belongings, and that seeing how that in the basement here things got flooded and so much of our belongings have been ruined, and so many of my belongings and art and stuff is scattered around the state and the country. That I got stuff still down in Florida, and all my stuff is taking space in other people's places, but without me being able to go through my process of emptying and acknowledging and respecting each and every object, and being able to know and realize that these physical objects are my parents' memories. And to be coming across boxes that have been not even opened since our home was condemned with Clinton House back in 2014, and watching how the trauma of that experience destroyed my parents. Soon after that, my mom's health went down, and my dad developed dementia very quickly. And having to be their home health aide for the pandemic was one of the most challenging and difficult things in my life. Because I've never felt that I'm good enough. I've never felt like anybody understands me. So I think this is something, though, that everybody goes through. Everybody has the basement full of clutter, the spots that have the junk drawer that you've had from 3 moves ago that still has all the same junk in it, the junk left over from previous tenants, the stuff and the memories of people who have passed. My mom, one of the biggest things that she was so consistently wanting was for her treasures to be taken care of. Her all her stuff. And the way that I can honor that is by taking these treasures, turning them into art, and giving them the homes to the people that will cherish them, while being able to generate the funds needed for me to continue navigating and growing in this process. I've never wanted to have money, and I have been terrified of actual success because I don't think I would be able to handle the amount of attention that goes with it. But knowing that I have this support system who have always been able to help me do these things, that it's not wrong to want to have the resources to be able to make this their job, to keep me in the position where I'm doing what I can do, and help me with the things that I struggle with. When I came back from Florida, I was very much with this drive and energy that I am going to come be a support for my support system, as my good friend Scott, who has been taking care of Sasha and known her since she's a kitten. He's been there for me all these years, and I never went to his place. And coming back and realizing that the power is still off in the house here, and that I was just given the space to stay at his place, and went from feeling, wow, I'm on top, I'm doing everything, I'm taking this money I'm making off of the arcade monsters, I'm doing every step that I need to do to get my driver's license back, and that I want to take all the necessary steps in navigating the process of getting a proper diagnosis and being able to have the proper support system to function at a more of an accelerated rate than I can possibly do on my own. That I don't want to struggle like this anymore. I've always been afraid to ask for help, but this process of understanding that I may have autism has allowed me to be vulnerable and ask for help. That I am committed to taking the mask off and bringing this process to the world, and do it real time. This one here, I'm recording it. I couldn't bring myself to stream it yet. And I don't think I could ever get to a point of where I edit it, because I don't like the way I look. I don't want to hear the way I sound, and it terrifies me. But I think by going through this process if I can help a single person go through a process, it'll make a big difference. And seeing all these different YouTubers who have gotten late in life diagnosis of autism, I'm seeing all their heavily edited videos. And watching Orion, that autistic guy's video where he did a raw, unmasked version, it has given me the courage to do the same. I thank you very much and for listening to my rant, and I have to figure out the ways to be able to accept the resources and be open about the financial challenges that are in front of me, because my desire is to have a space where all my different forms of art can be represented and organized and be able to stream art being done from these spaces, not just by me, but by other people, and having it so that I can be scattered in ADHD about how I do art, that I can go over to one corner and do acrylic pouring, going over to another corner and doing clothing painted, going over to the studio working on some music, and stream it all live for everyone to see, and create a space that is conducive for creation, and to be able to bring in other artists, and to have sponsors come in and bring in all kinds of knowledge and technology, and give artists the chance to work with the best of materials, and having people that can 3D print ideas that they have and be able to make it real so that they can take their art to the next level. It's all about understanding and being open about how we all have our things that we mask and not let the world know about, and that we can let those masks go away and truly be a community that is about raising people up and helping them where they struggle, and piecing together all these pieces of the puzzle that I've been putting together in the way that I think. And it's funny that the sign for autism is a puzzle piece. The best way I could describe it, as my way I see things, is in shapes, and the flowing, interconnecting shapes that I have scattered about like all these belongings. And by combining each of these things in a different way, it's combining experience and different ways of looking at things. And I'll get more into it another time. I think I've overwhelmed myself and everybody else enough on this, half an hour rant. Thank you all for being patient with me, and thank you everyone who has given me a chance to shine. Love you all. I guess this is the point where you're supposed to say, hit like, share, and tag people and all that stuff. But please be patient with me with responding to comments, because I have a hard time when 2 or 3 people are trying to talk to me at once. I'm not sure I know how to handle it when there's thousands.